I am doing a survey course through the Tree of Life, which I'm 100% convinced, and this is really now my mission until Mashiach really comes back, is to teach people this spiritual system. This is the foundation stone, all the way down, top to bottom. This is the Godhead. This is what we can know that is given to us for our children's children. This is the intellectual property, our inheritance of how Yahweh truly interacts with us, his creation, and we interact with him. I have applied every kind of litmus test that I can find to this chart, and it never fails. The archetypes always hold up. There's nothing crooked, understands it, about it. Now let me just start. We're going into the twins today, Netzach and Hod, okay? And again, as you can see here, we're dealing with these are the three pillars. There's the right side, the left side, and there is the middle pillar. This is done, this is done deliberately, and if you look at a flat image of it down, this is like what, the tribes would have looked like camped, flat on a, one-dimensional surface there, okay? But if you take it, remember, we fold it up, we get actually a mathematical cube of space. That is, I don't do the gematria, people. There are so many levels to this. It's unbelievable. I want to say this, especially for some listeners. I literally, right now, I want to bow to my brother Judah. The fact that they have kept this information in the house for the last days when it needs to come out. This is the unsealing of all of this prophecy, so we will understand everything on all of its levels, especially the Tarat HaSod, the Sod of the Sod, or if you say Sud of the Sud, however pronunciation. The Judah has done this. It says that, and it says to Judah, your brothers will esteem you. Well, I totally do. Ephraimites, we did not keep this. If anything, we are really responsible for like the prodigal, for schlepping our inheritance all over the world and kind of mixing it up with everything, so all the other religions, all the other isms of the world. And now we're coming back to this. And we really do owe our brother Judah such a debt. They will have the faithful remnant that have kept this for us. This is the point of Mashiach ben David, part of it, for them, because this is their promise. They will receive a place in the government of Elohim. Because in the big picture of everything, these faithful sages through thousands of years that have kept this, it's the most astounding story that can ever and will ever be told. And when it is told and known and seen, because let me tell you something, I'm not doing a little rant here, every eye is going to see Yod Hey Vav Hey. When the veil is rent and when the heavens open and when we see the spiritual system and our place and everything is kind of lit up, believe me, and there's no place to hide. Oh my gosh. Yes, it's so literal and so true. So that's my rant, but we're back down to the twins. All right. We are talking, when we're talking in these levels, this high level of Chokmah and Bina, of wisdom and understanding, of truly understanding Yahweh. There's two sides. There's a life side and a right side. Over and over, the scriptures testify to this. Over and over, the typology, the archetypes that continue to tell us information, that are used periodically to explain stuff to us. Over and over are left and right, male, female, positive, negative, the X's and the O's, or however you want to describe this. But even in the body, this is so there's two sides. We have two sides of our brain. We have two eyes. We have two ears. We have two lungs. We have two kidneys. We have, reproductively, two testicles, or you have two ovums. You have 2 feet, 2 ears, 2 hands. How much more duality do you need? Seriously. What does Yahweh need to do for you? Seriously. All right, this is why, and I have something really exciting, and hopefully a new guest I can bring on the show soon, who's going to share something that he has seen in the Tetragrammaton, in this tree of life, that is, I call it is the seal of Elohim. It is. I can prove to you. He can that there is an image of Elohim on everything. Oh, it's unbelievable when this world is really opened up and we understand it. Okay, so we did Tiferet last week, and I thought I would do more, but I just really want to get through this survey course. I want to start. I am doing the study guide. I'm going to put a lot of notes. The website will be out in the middle of January. Yah willing, pray. Netzach on the right side is the 7th Sephirot. Hod on the left side is the 8th Sephirot. All right, but they're called the twins. They are always kind of pictured together. This is, you know, and so think about it archetypally. They're even in the Mazzaroth, the twins. There is a lot of confirming witness to this concept. All right, not only in the body part. We can, in all the archetypes, there is a duality. All right, even though Elohim is whole, is one unity. And this is the other thing, when we get down to these other Sephirotic emanations, what's coming out, especially more and more in science, we know now that our body parts, our organs are intelligent. Our mind is not the only intelligent, communicative, decision-making organ in our body. They know the heart does this now. The liver and the kidneys, we're going to be really surprised. It's so interesting, but I'm not going to go down some of that rabbit trail. On the right side, you have Netzach, all right, and on the left side, you have Hod. Now, again, what I'm trying to establish, everyone have to understand, this is an encoding system. This is a system of encryption. Actually, I've done past videos on what that means, and I don't know if you don't really understand what I'm trying to say is, well, just Google it. Listen, just Google what it means to make ciphers, to encrypt and to encode information. It's a huge science. It's used all the time in our intelligence agencies, and it's been used in warfare tactics. And kids make up little little encrypted ways to talk to each other. Hey, teenagers with all the texting today that goes on. All right, so I'm not talking about anything that's not totally knowable and comprehensible and a used system. All right. So the point is, I'm just going to start with Netzach on the right. All right. Now, so that there's a correspondence. And so what they do is and I've established this, they link up things with every Sephiroth. So just to go down this list. All right. So on the right side, Netzach comes down from Hokmah. You can see this. You have to understand. You have to look at a chart and see the right side. We're talking about male emanation. We're talking about something that is it's light. All right. This is the male part. It comes down. It's equated with. So Thursday is the day of the week that represents Netzach. It represents the right kidney because it's right on the right side. It is the letter Tet in the assign the letter Tet over into its Sephirotic position. It's the Mazzaroth. If you are looking at this thing in a zodiacal way, that's the Mazzaroth. It is the lion. It is Leo in the lion, and it is in the month. It represents also the month of Av, this July and August. Now, let me tell you something, people. If you look on secular or occultic, or this knowledge is out there, nobody's making it up. All right, these are established. This is part of the understanding the ancients had. That's why they were so much more adept in using, quote unquote, the spiritual system. All right, and I'm going to explain a little bit more what I mean by that. But one thing that needs to be understood is in the Mazzaroth, this is the Godhead, right? And we know that the Godhead is the Word. The Word is, right? And it says the Word is written in the stars. So there has to be an aspect of this emanative powers of Elohim coming and filtering through, and this is what it really does. Our solar system is sort of filtering and directing and combining and processing and doing all sorts of things, okay, that is affecting in the physical level, and not just in the physical. See, it's mentally, spiritually, emotionally. I mean, just think, look at me. Gloomy days make me nuts. I can't hardly function on a severely gloomy day. It just shuts me down. All right. So don't tell me that the sun don't affect. All right. the right side. This represents the priests. All right, this is the blessing side, because remember I told you Hesed is loving kindness. God is love. That is the first attribute of Elohim out of the box. That's why Christians, in the New Testament say, oh, God is love, because that is the first truly introduction that all of these they had to Elohim. Now all of a sudden, hey, he is a God of love because he's letting us in. I don't think people understand the overwhelming message encoded in the gospel for the Gentiles. When they heard this message, they could come into this whole, be grafted back into, we're talking about the lost sheep of the house of Israel, grafted back into this thing, the love of Elohim, getting reconnected to him, okay? So Hesed, these things are very important to understand. They follow so many patterns, patterns and conjunctions and intersections, and we put in like auspicious times. I mean, there's so much to understand about how this is, because see, when you get into the lower seven Sefiroth, when you get into Zeranpin, which I'm talking about now, Netzach and Hod are in technically what is called the Six Sephiroth of the heavens. This constitutes the heavens, and this is called Zeranpin, and they are located in the world of, in the world of Yetzirah, in the soul level of Ruach. All right. And this is something I'm going to have charts on and different things. People, all I can say is you just got to memorize some of this stuff. There's a certain level of basics. It's like if you're going to ever take calculus or get up into higher level thinking of anything, you've got to master the basics. You got to learn your multiplication, how to add, subtract. These are things you have to do. So you have to learn this chart. All right, so you have to learn the different worlds, and I'm going to really get into this in much, much deeper levels, but we're touching on this. So we are in the world of Yetzirah, which is the second level up from our carnal man, our nephesh. Now we're in our ruach, and it is called the world of Yetzirah. Okay, so just to establish that, because I remember I told you, it's always geography, and you always have to know, it's important, where you are. Because you don't want to be lost, right? I'm done being lost. My lost days are done. Okay. Now, there is an ethical quality. So let me see if I can just finish going through some of these. I said the letter Tet. In the Mazzaroth, in the month, it's Av, July, August. It's represented, it is the lion. Okay, Leo. Its planet is Venus. Its metal is copper. All right. Now, in the priesthood, and this is where the operation of the priesthood is, when I'll get to explaining how actually Sefirotically, because these things are kind of also divided into triads, this is the triad of what is called the priesthood. Above it, Tiferet, Hesed, and Gevira the top is the logos. Okay, so it's important to see, okay, the logos is up in Chokmah Bina, right? The mind. I said get wisdom and understanding, that's the mind. A logos. The middle, Tiferet, Gevira, and Hesed, it is the Torah of the ethics. This is the ethical Torah. This is the word, the unchanging, the Torah that doesn't change. Okay, this is the law. This is, and when I said Tiferet, who is the embodied Mashiach, who is the middle pillar, this is nothing, the portal, everything goes in and out of him, nothing is, all right, so, but in terms of the ethics, this is a very important domain to understand, but the domain coming below that is called the priesthood, and this is where Yeshua, this is why Yeshua, the priesthood of Melchizedek, had to be restored in the heavens, this lower level of the heavens of the Ruach, before, in lieu of and in the process of complete restoration of this whole thing and our elevation back up into as priests, as prophets, and having the mind of Elohim. So everything relates perfectly with everything else. So it is also where our emotions are. This is where a place where and where this is where praise and worship comes from. All right, and I'm kind of doing. In the praise and worship, when I'm talking about the world of Yetzirah and the level of our soul, the Ruach, Netzach and Hod, and Yesod, the three of them, that they kind of make up that universe, that dimension of ourselves. These are the operating portals through which, I don't know how else to say it. when we really enjoy, in the best sense, it's so great not to be a robot, so that on my own, I can truly enjoy, Elohim, and just enjoy his beauty that he created the earth. It's such a more beautiful and robust relationship. It's like your kids, when they finally, you can enjoy them as adults. You can express things to each other on such a deep level, but at the same time, the giddy love of a little child, from a child to an aged person, this whole world of things that we experience in our life. Because remember, we all go through everything, the seasons. I'm thinking, and they even equate it, you start the spring of life, and then they call it autumn, the end of life, towards the end, the glory, the old age, and then you get into winter. Everything follows. So anyways, that's why a lot of the, I have to say this, a lot of the writers before the last 70 years, and it was like 15, 16, 17, 18, 19th century literary writers in the West, they had so much of this information, these illusions they would use over and over. You read Shakespeare, you realize they totally had an understanding of this stuff. And when you start to decode it, it's like, oh yeah, they're talking, but because they read this, and because this was known and appreciated, people studied it. This is nothing that was like all of a sudden, had the evil rap, in the sense. I would say more of the elite did, okay? Most of the rest of us were either way, okay? So it really was the elites, truly, because they had the time and the resources, and they were getting the access to the libraries and the best places where information of this magnitude is always kept. All right. Now, this is again coming down. We are down into the way the hands of Elohim are used, the feet or the legs, okay? But these do kind of represent, we're back now kind of into the knees, because let me just say that it is very important in the world of Ruach. This is why it's so important, the concept of to bow the knee. This is why humility, there's such a deep understanding, especially in the Jewish soul, of why you have to lower yourself. You have to bend yourself down, so to speak, under the heavy weight of Elohim, because there isn't, these are very dense, and I'm going to show this, these areas down here, when we get active in the physics, they're very dense. We're getting now into a lot of, this is why there's so much in our text about the sun, moon, and stars, and about, it seems like angels are, all of a sudden angels are all over the place, and there's a lot of interaction. Even with Genesis 6, you get a lot of interaction, quote unquote, between angels and men, because now we are coming down into a lower section where there is beginning to be the ability to finally shape shift into really physicality and to mortality. Okay, so this is a very close level to where this is a level, when I said the priesthood, a lot of magic, quote unquote, a lot of we'll call them those who practice magic arts and sorceries, dogs and sorcerers, people who use this system and practice these, for their own nefarious end, for harm and not for good, and not under the direction of the head, Yahweh Elohim. Can you imagine? So anyways, this area we'll get into there's a lot going on. This is where you're going to find your demons and your giants and your Nephilims and your, oh my gosh, all the hybrids and all this seeming to be interaction. Are there aliens? Are there UFOs? Is there something going on out? Okay, a lot of this is coming into contact. A lot of these worlds between Ruach and Malkut, there's a lot now of contact and physicality, or I wouldn't even call it physicality, of interaction. All right, it's much closer to us. All right, we're getting down to where we are. All right, so that's why in the history of the world, in a lot of the mythologies of the world, it does always seem larger than life, because you are starting to get into some really larger than life life forms and entities. I hope that all kind of makes sense, because I'm really going to unpack and go deep, but I have to say that now. Let me get to its ethical qualities, all right? So on the left side, I want to say things like Hod, we know it's the Levites. Now, another thing and this is so interesting, the priesthood, where they're actually acting as a priest to Elohim, right? And then the left side, the Levites worshiping and praise him. I tell you what, the best thing that you, and this is what people, the best thing that you can do in this level, in this Ruach, is to praise and worship out of your emotions, out of a pure heart, because this is the heart area, all right? Yahweh Elohim, all right? Otherwise, you're going to get stuck in all these negative energies. See the energy level down here in our lower heart, in our Ruach, in our emotions, positive energies, negative energies, which now you got to understand, these are just angels. These are just influences. These are just, you know, this is an area where it says, okay, in the Bible, they'll talk a lot about this, that the armies or the hosts of Elohim, all right? Because angels are armies. Angels are, they're energies. And this is something now that, okay, so when Yeshua stilled the waves, right? And the water and the waves, right? The waves and the wind and the waves, right? He spoke. He said, stop. Knock it off. Still. All right. And they obeyed him. And they're all, well, who the heck is this that can command the elements? And they obey him. And this has happened with other prophets or other holy men have displayed, you know, Moshe at the Red Sea or Elijah have risen to this level of power in Yeshua, of being able to speak to the elements. This is where, again, where there's a lower level of elements, and elements are intelligences. This is another thing we understand. Everything's going to make sense, all the mythologies, where we understand what we're talking about. Okay, these energies, these powers, or these influences, you know, however you want to work it, are the armies. These are the angels, all right? So just to throw this out there, this is why, and there's enough corporality, potential, I guess you could say. And this is the story where, you know, the fallen angels, these are the watcher angels over us, so to speak, right? At Yesod, especially, and whatever, but they did fall. That this is the whole story of, you know, Azazel, was, you know, and the 200 that land on Mount Hermon, one of the probably one of the better known stories of angelic invasion and intervention, right? But the point is, you know, it talks about the unforgivable sin. Everybody's trying to figure out in the New Testament, oh, what's the unforgivable sin? Well, you know, if you read more Old Testament, if you get a bigger, deeper, broader understanding of where our knowledge stream and where our wisdom understanding comes from, right? You don't understand the other is called fornication. What that is, it says, I'll read in Enoch, it says it right in Enoch 10, 9 through 12, it says the forbidden union between an Israelite and a heathen or a Gentile could be forgiven. Wasn't, you know, it's technically forbidden. You're not, you know, they're trying to preserve the bloodline here for the elect in the Mashiach, but this flip side, but it says, but not between an angel and a woman. That's the unforgivable sin, all right? To create a life form through a forbidden union, which we know now, you know, all right, everything was supposed to be produced after its kind. This level of angelic order, this level, and a human woman, that was never supposed to happen, all right? And so the world, we've just had all these consequences, you know, after that. Now, Sefirotically, in the ethical quality, like I said, one of the most important categories for this is their ethical quality. And it's funny because right now in Netzach, this is where I am, so to speak, in my relationship, and it's so healthy. I have, like everybody else, I got to deal with the oppression. I mean, the end of the age is pretty intense, and it's a full-time job to keep your lights on, to keep your lamp filled with oil, all right, and to run to the finish line. This Sefiroth it brings us the final victory. This is, because in the Greek, it's the word Nike, all right, so if you took, it's the word which means victory, all right, so this is where our victory is. This Sefiroth will give us, this is what it means to have endurance. This will give us, let me put it this way, the endurance, the strength, and the eventual victory to hang in there and win the fight. Now, whether it's a prayer, I mean, I've had a prayer issue 15 years, 20 years. And I'm like, Father, I mean, okay, now something's got to give. I mean, you know, I've had my low moments. Okay, but when I understand Netsach, I understand I'm going to get my victory. If I hang in there, you know, because I mean, if you leave the party, it's over. You have to, even the smallest amount of faith, and just ask for more. You've got to stay in the faith on the subject, okay? But the point is, when you hit an auspicious time, see, this is what I've understood about the mods, or then how everything is just a huge clock. It's a machine. There's so many things, but your answer's out there, and it's coming, and it's got a specific date and time and everything on it, you know. But you have to wait for it, because there's so many component things that have to lock in place for this. And somebody said to me this one time, this prayer is about a person, and it's like, you know what, you just have to wait, because you can't force me. You have to wait till of their own free will they get themselves in a position. All right, a lot of this we're waiting on each other. Oh my gosh. And it's very it's the grace. See, this is what the early Christian was saying. The grace. This is equivalent with. So what I'm trying to say, this is the word that means grace to us. This is the Sefiroth that's being referred to. He will give us the grace to endure the flow into our lives. It's sort of the gas in our tank to keep going, all right, until you can hit the place in the cycle, the place where you are going to receive. And you know what? And I've learned this, and I had a taste of it. It says that hope deferred makes the heart sick. Because that's the thing. I mean, like, I'm heart sick over this particular issue, because it just. But when the answer comes, it is a tree of life. And I so relate, because when that answer comes through Netzach, when that flow that is coming through Netzach, and then it goes into Yesod next and right down into my answer is there. My answer is right. It's coming. See, it's such an because it has helped me grow in maturity and grace and understanding and wisdom. Aren't these all the attributes that in our character we want to develop? Good midos. So whatever. Okay. It is. And I do believe, and let me just say one other thing. A lot of times, some of these chart things, the correspondences, there's not even all agreement amongst all the sages. You look at different systems. The Ari had a system, and Moshe Cordovega had, and there are some, discrepancies, or you should say contradiction. But I don't. It's okay, because the whole thing is pretty complex, and we're going to get there putting it back together more and more. So sometimes, like I said, you'll see Aaron on the right and Moshe on the left, or vice versa. I can see an argument for both of them, because the Levites were the worshipers, and it is so important to keep our ruach in the right zone is through worship. The best thing you can do on your left side when you're in it under attack of oppression, or you're feeling good gloom, or is to get into that praise and worship mode. Now that's something everybody should be figuring out by now. So, okay, so now on the flip side with Hod, okay, so this blessing, like I said, this victory is coming through the right side, coming through the male side, because that is the flow that comes through that side, okay? Let's have our brain. Think of all right? The left side, again, we're dealing here with Elohim. We're dealing here with the female. We're dealing here with Bina. We're dealing here with her major qualities. This left side quality of judgment, of chastening. All right? This is Rem Gaver, where the court of Elohim is. And when that verdict comes out, all right? And believe me, even though our sins are paid for, so to speak, under the blood of Yeshua, in that sense, the repercussions of them are, and the putting everything back to you, that is a whole different process. This is why there's a difference in sanctification. I am holy, by birthright now, by firstborn sonship. But my sanctification for all that's the process part, and that's where we get into Netzach and Hod. And this is really the process part. much closer for most of us. All right, so it's a channel for judgments. And this is where we come into this part of chastening, which is for our good. You know, if you're a wicked, you have to be punished. Usually it's a harsher, severe punishment, because a lot of times you got to get, all right. But if it's a son, and the heart is right, maybe you just need a little extra correction. You need a little chasing. You need a little, okay, you know, and it's always under the auspices of the mercy of Elohim. But what's important to understand, there's another whole component to this on the spiritual levels, okay? On the right and left side, they call it the prophecy. This is where prophecy is channeled from, all right? Now, there's a lot of confusion. I have to say this, Christian, or, you know, and I think, you think that in your understanding of the Ruach HaKodesh, I mean, it's a fact, the Holy Spirit. Most, first of all, don't understand the feminine aspect of Elohim, okay? They don't understand the difference between Bina, the heavenly mother, the upper wisdom, and the lower wisdom, and like Malchut and Shekinah. They don't understand the mother and the daughter, all right? That hasn't, like I told you, we have a very screwed up Godhead. I'm telling you, I'm sorry, all right? Don't shoot the messenger, okay? But prophecy, this is where was channeled down. This is sort of what was plugged up. The spirit of prophecy is when Yeshua was saying, you know, wait for the Ruach HaKodesh to come, the Holy Spirit, and she will lead you into all truth. I mean, this is the point. It is this level of activation of Sefirotic, you know, once you come up through Yesod, you know, remember Yeshua said, what you think, Nicodemus, that you think I can go back into the birth canal and get born again? I mean, how does that happen? He's thinking all physical, like Yeshua was saying, well, you know, you got to get born again. He's like, how does that happen? You can't go up your mother's womb again. Okay, and Yeshua is probably, you know, trying to be very patient. Okay, no, I'm talking allegory. We're up in the, okay, to be born again of my Father, who is Spirit, who is the Logos. All right. Through me, you come in and I give you the Spirit again so that you can follow us all the way up and navigate. I mean, look at it's your GPS system, all right? But most Christians come in a very low level of prophecy. This is not the level of prophecy like our prophets and sages of the Old Testament, all right? This is not the Isaiah and these guys, they were in the throne room. See, this is like a little bit of one of my things about Christianity and these, like some of these quote unquote prophets and all these teachers out there and people that are poo-pooing, you know, you need to have a little humility because you really don't know what you're talking about. I once was there, you know, I once was lost, but now I'm found. And I just, my testimony, I'm one witness, but there's a lot of witnesses out there saying you're not putting it together correctly. We do not have this level. The level of prophecy we have is very introductory, so to speak, all right? And we need to, there's a lot higher levels of spiritual attainment, discipline, and holiness that are necessary to go up into the higher levels of God consciousness and true prophetic foretelling on the level, okay? But flip side is a lot, even what Paul talks about, word of knowledge, words of wisdom, these definitely come to us basically, I think, through angelic and in the lower levels with Netzach and Hod. And I mean, that's where a lot of the quicker intuitive things come to us, where we just know something, or you do get a word of knowledge, you have a word of, you know, okay? And a lot of times the miracles and the healings and things are victory, they get channeled here. So I just wanted people to understand how deeply thought through. And again, I'm not, Mashiach, he is the middle pillar that's all flowing and functioning through him. He says, you know, I made everything. Without me, there's nothing made. He sustains everything. This is what he's saying in Colossians, all right? He is the spiritual system. He is the king sitting in the spiritual system. I mean, it's amazing. All right, so Ruach HaKodesh is the gate, just the gate to the higher levels of consciousness. There's a very famous quote from Elijah, from a treatise that is, the whole history of Elijah within Jewish mysticism is very interesting. I can't go into it. I mean, look at Elijah, here's a guy who was living on the planet one day. Then all of a sudden he's gone like Enoch, taken up to heaven. And then later on in text, and you can prove it 10 or 15 years later, he writes a letter. Just like, what is going on? The only way you can understand this stuff is understand the spiritual universes and how shape-shifting, how some people, you can get so spiritual at some levels. This, let me just tell you, if you're a Christian, you're afraid of words like Metatron and, the angel, Elijah, and then Sandalford. You read some of these things. Don't worry. I'm telling you, we're not in texts that are using this information of spiritual kingdom in a Luciferian dark arts occultic way. Okay, that's just not happening. All right, so you have to understand. This is when we get into the spiritual kingdom, and then you have to understand the other side, where it is, number one, and how it functions, all right? And light and darkness have no fellowship. So if we're in the light, I'm in the light. I know I'm in the light. I don't worry about the dark. See, we're not supposed to worry, right? We're not supposed to have fear, anxiety, worry, or doubt. Yah said he'd keep me like a child. I trust him. He keeps me. He keeps my mind in the right zone. He keeps my body healthy. He keeps me. Okay? All right. A couple last things I want to say about these, the way this works, some of the Sephirotic things. Like I said, we'll have a lot of this. Oh, okay. Let's do this one. We talk about the pillars, right? You know that, everybody gets so, I shouldn't freaked out about Freemasonry and the fact that they use some of these same images and symbols and everything in a very, in my opinion, profane, which is an unholy and not loyal to the tradition. Okay, because I don't even know Yahweh. Okay, Yahweh Elohim. In other words, they're not loyal. They're not interested in preserving the truth. They're interested in much more nefarious. We won't even go into that. They have different motives and goals. Okay, let's put it that way. But the pillars is very biblical. So let me just say, in 1 Kings chapter 7, all right, in 15 to 20, it says right there that he cast 2 bronze pillars. And there's this whole description. And you can, from the description, you can map it all out and everything. And here are the pillars. Right, this is what we're talking about. These were right at the temple door entrance. Right, isn't that interesting? Because you're going into Tiferet, which is the Holy of Holies, by the way. So you enter in, and I'll tell you again how accurate this is. You enter in, and why wouldn't Netzach and Hod be right there? Right? Okay, that's the whole layout. All right, but it says that Gavira, it says in one of the writings how. When you come out of the temple and you're facing east, you come out and you face east. And then it says, you're coming out of the temple and you're facing east, it says that Haset is on your right and Gavira is on your left. And I believe I got that right. So this is what you can cross-reference it. And this is where I say encrypting. They are literally encrypting the position of the tree of life in the temple. All right, and if you put it flat and you put this on top of a light, you would see that they totally correspond with each other. But it's accurate. So what I'm saying is, you can't make this stuff up. All right, there's too many always correct correspondences to show you. There's a whole supernatural element to this, and we have not even gotten down, people, and I'm not even there yet. Of the numbers and the letters and the permutations and how and what is going on. So I'll just tell you, we're scratching the surface. So either way, but let me just say another verse is in Jeremiah 52. Jeremiah talks about the pillars in the temple. There's another way. So Jeremiah is not confused, right? And he puts them in the exact same position, and he talks about the 2 pillars. And then it's read again in 2 Chronicles 3, 5 through 17. So there's 3 witnesses. So that this, and we know, remember, it's a pattern the heavenly temple, or the temple on earth is a pattern of the heavenly temple. What's the heavenly temple except the Godhead, including the heavens, including the earth, and including the high heavens? Okay, what else could we be talking about? All right. So, but the thing with the pillars, it's important to understand, and then it says the right side is Joachim, on the left side is Boaz. And I didn't have time to go into their stories to see, and because I'm sure that there's a complete accurate correspondence in the lives of as to why they're where they are. So maybe I'll come back and after I've done that little tiny bit of research and see. So this is kind of a wrap up, but one more thing I want to say, how the system is, how it works, because again, the right and the left, you understand the whole thing. This is the eyes and the ears. You're talking about the all-seeing eye. Zeal unpin. This is the all-seeing eye of Elohim. He's everywhere. One of the most amazing things that people are going to get really amazed at, especially when they see it, this is a system that works really good for saint or sinner alike. This is how everything's kind of on autopilot in a sense, because everything is being weighed in the balance, our thoughts, our words, our deeds, our circumstances, everything goes. And like I said, when judgment comes down, let's say, and then it gets tempered with mercy in the middle pillar, in this way of balancing it, harmonizing it. Netzach and Hod, and these are known as the grinders and the millstones. Okay, especially this is up. There's this whole parabolic understanding, which I don't think we really have an understanding. In the heavenlies, the way they cycle, the way these sun, moon, and stars cycle, and above them actually are the intelligences that are filtering through the influences, everything that's coming down into the lower worlds. And it talks about they're the grinders and the millstones, because if you ever you ever run into your life and it's like, oh my gosh, I have been around this track 3 times. This has got to be the 4th time am I ever going to learn this lesson, or is this lesson ever going to depart from me? You ever get that feeling? Sometimes that's what's going on. Sometimes we have to be ground to a pulp in some of our bad habits and different things, so we really get them out of our system. You pulverize something, and I don't have time now to finish this allegory, but I think people get, when you grind something, you pulverize it, you're like just getting it back down, all the elements up to dust, okay? And that's sometimes in the chastening under that where, sometimes our dreams just got to crash and burn because they were never Yahweh's intention for us anyways, okay? So this is another thing why you need the grace on the one hand to forbear through the grinding that's going on in your life on the other hand. He'll never give us more than we can handle, but what he's telling us is that, look, this kind of has to go together. I'll pour a lot of oil on it, but you definitely need a sanding down there, okay? So this is all part and parcel of some of the concepts that are involved. We're going to go back to Yesod next time. That's where we're going to open up another whole can of worms, and we're really going to understand what's going on, because let me just say this. I know that date this is coming at the end of the year. I am going to do a sort of, not my prediction, sort of how I could see things going for the next year, because there's some I'm beginning to, I think, understand some of the patterns, the movements, to kind of do a little predicting on the spiritual future. So we'll see how that goes. I might release some stuff that could be very interesting. So on that note, shalom. Enjoy your life in the spiritual world with Yahweh, understanding that if you do good, if you think good, if you draw good, positive, the system, will work for blessing and not for evil, for chase. Shalom.